Hello everyone, welcome you all to the new chapter, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. This chapter is of great importance because the chapter is completely based on ideologies. And it is really important to have a clear concept of the terminologies and the ideologies that would come in this chapter. It's not just about the events, it's about the events driven by the ideologies. And it is true that the revolutions, the changes that we find, they all are driven by the ideologies. The ideology of Nazism, the ideology of socialism, communism. So it's ideology which is extremely strong and powerful that can bring changes to the world. So the idea of nationalism is something which we are familiar, and how the idea of nationalism emerged from the French Revolution and thereafter spread across Europe and eventually to the whole world. The topics that we'll discuss today, as I have given in the introduction, Frédéric Soru's Utopian vision and the idea of the French philosopher Ernst Renan about nation or nation state. After the end of this video lesson, you would be able to define absolutist institutions, state the meaning of utopian vision, and point out the description of Frédéric Soru's dream of world made up of democratic and social republic. Now the first ideology here is nationalism, and in fact the whole chapter revolves around this ideology, which is nationalism. And we all understand how strong this ideology is. Nationalism, very simply, as we are familiar, that is our closeness to the nation, our feeling toward the nation. It's a feeling. However, this feeling is so strong that the soldiers are ready to die for the nation. We all are ready to die for the nation. In the name of nation, we are ready to do anything. Why? Because it's the idea of nation. It's a feeling towards nation. So yes, nationalism is an ideology which emphasizes, which shows faithfulness, devotion, or allegiance or connectedness to a nation or nation state. In fact, it's a political and socio-economic philosophy. The same ideology. So it's a political and socio-economic philosophy that promotes the interest of a nation as a whole. So when you think about the nation or about a nation as a whole, you feel attached towards the nation. That is nationalism. That is the feeling of nationalism. And as I said, the feeling of nationalism is extremely strong. And this feeling of nationalism, this idea of nationalism, or the ideology of nationalism emerged clearly from the French Revolution, and then it spread across Europe and eventually to the whole world. You would have noticed in yourself, when you watch a cricket match or any sport, you want your nation to win. You support your nation. You respect your national flag. Why? Because of this feeling towards the nation, respect towards the nation, faithfulness towards the nation, and allegiance towards the nation. When national anthem is played, we stand. Why? We don't talk about any scientific reasons here. That is our feeling towards the nation, our attachment towards the nation. So, you can imagine here how strong this feeling of nationalism is. So, very simply, you got the definition here that nationalism is an ideology which emphasizes faithfulness, devotion, or allegiance to a nation or nation state. Now, before we go ahead, it is very important to understand these terminologies, because these terminologies would come again and again. You'll encounter these terminologies several times. So, let's talk about these terminologies. The first one is utopia. The term utopia means a very ideal condition. A very ideal condition which is practically not possible. However, every society tries to achieve it. Like everywhere, whether it's school or anywhere about the nation, we complain. We complain about things. We want certain things to be there in place. We have some vision. We have some idea. If this would have been there, it would have been great. Similarly, when we talk about utopia, it's in the political sphere, we talk about it as something like Ram Rajya. Everyone is happy. No issues, no fight, no tensions, no challenges. That is utopia. So utopia is a vision of a society that is so ideal, extremely ideal, all good, that is unlikely to actually exist. However, every society tries to achieve it. So, very simply, we can say a very ideal condition which is practically not possible. However, every society tries to achieve it. Now, the next terminology you are quite aware of, that is absolutist. When we say absolutist, we refer in political terms to monarchy. So, monarchy, or a government or system of rule that has no restraints, no control on the power exercised. If someone gets power and use the power in an uncontrolled manner, it means nobody is there to stop the person, would rule in an autocratic manner, in a despotic manner, means, the way, whichever way he or she or the ruler wants. And that would not be good for the people. So, absolutist institutions or absolutist government is a system of rule that has no control on the power exercised. These institutions possess uncontrollable power. So you got it here, the meaning of absolutist institutions or absolutist. Now the next term is plebiscite. Plebiscite is a democratic method, a direct vote in which all the people of a region are asked to accept or reject a proposal. Very simply, let's say a government has to implement any particular policy. So before implementing the policy, government presents that policy to the people and says to the people to decide, and the people have the right to say yes or no, and based on that the decisions are taken. So that is plebiscite. Another term used for plebiscite is referendum, right? So plebiscite, very simply, is a direct vote in which all the people of a region are asked to accept or reject a proposal, and it is also termed as referendum. Now the next term is nation state, very important. We have to talk only about nation state on the whole. A state that establishes itself as a separate political and geographical entity and functions as a complete sovereign territorial unit, and a nation with a feeling of nationalism. So very simply, in the past, we talk about like even 16th century or 17th century, so the kingdoms were divided, those even in the same country, and the different kingdoms used to fight with each other. Like today, it is not possible. It's not like Maharashtra would attack on Delhi. No. So it's all about the nation, right? So it used to happen in the past. So nation state is a separate political and geographical entity and functions as a complete and sovereign territorial unit with the feeling of nationalism. And sovereign very simply means supreme power. It means a nation or a country can take its decisions without any external control. Right? So very simply, you got an idea here about nation state, that a nation state is a nation based on the idea of nationalism that establishes itself as a separate political and geographical entity and functions as a complete and sovereign territorial unit. Now the next one is the modern state. That is based on the idea of sovereignty with centralized power, right? So a state in which sovereignty is exercised by a centralized power over a specific territory and population. That is what we call as nation state. Now, Frédéric Sorreu's Utopian vision. So we have this Frédéric Sorreu's Utopian vision. What was the dream of Frédéric Sorrieu? What dream he presented? What utopian vision? What ideal thing that he presented? That was the demand that time, that we'll see in this picture. We'll observe this picture, analyze this picture, because this picture is going to give you summary of the whole chapter. Now, let's observe it. First thing here, this picture has been given by Frédéric Sorrieu, and it is termed as Frédéric Sorrieu's Utopian vision, and it was given in 1848. Frédéric Sorrieu was a French artist. He prepared a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republics, as he called them. So, you all know the meaning of democratic and social republic. Democracy, people's rule. Social means that is based on society, equality, and republic You should be very clear. Republic is a nation which has its own constitution and has an elected head of state. Elected head of state. So that is republic. So that was the dream of Frédéric Sorrieu. So he prepared 4 print, and from the 4 print, this picture that you observe here is the first print. And the name of the print is The Dream of Worldwide Democratic and Social Republic, the Pact Between Nations. Pact means agreement. So the dream is to establish worldwide democratic and social republic. Now you can see the picture here that at first, look here at the Statue of Liberty. Okay? So a female figure personified as liberty. So liberty has been personified in the French Revolution last year. You would have studied. If you don't remember, just keep in mind that personified liberty through the Statue of Liberty has been shown. And on one hand, there is torch of enlightenment, that is knowledge, wisdom, and on the other hand, it's the Charter of Rights of Man. So talking about the rights given to the people. Now you see here, there is a long train of people, and you see from here, right, a long train of people moving forward towards Statue of Liberty and paying homage, gratitude to the Statue of Liberty. And it is symbolizing that the different nations of Europe and America are marching forward towards Statue of Liberty. That shows that they are trying to become a nation state with the feeling of nationalism. So all the countries, the people of all the countries are marching forward towards Statue of Liberty in their national costumes and by carrying their national flags or their flags at that time. And here you can observe few people marched ahead of Statue of Liberty. That shows that they have already become nation states. And these countries are USA and Switzerland. So USA and Switzerland by that time, as the picture has been posted in 1848, very important here. So by 1848, USA and Switzerland already had become nation states. However, the other states or other nations are moving forward towards Statue of Liberty. France is quite close to the Statue of Liberty, means it's about to become a nation state. And France can be identifiable with the tricolor flag. And thereafter, France is followed by the peoples of Germany, the different principalities here, different parts of Germany. And they are bearing black, red and gold flag. And at this time, when Soru created this image, Germany, Italy, these countries were not nations like today. They were different territories, and by 1848, the process to unify these countries had been started. It means to make them as one nation had been started. Now, other thing, here at the foreground, you see, at the foreground here, the symbols of absolutist institutions shown here as broken or shattered. So it shows if you observe it minutely, try to see here. So these are the crowns of monarchs, right? Means the crowns of the king. So it shows on the foreground, it is shown that the absolutist institutions are shattered, they ended, and the new nation states are created. So it's the end of monarchy and emergence of nation states. Other than this, you see from the sky Christ, God, Jesus Christ, angels and saints here, right? Angels, Christ and saints all are gazing upon the scene. All are gazing upon the scene. They are looking upon the scene, and it seems that they also want the same, and they have also approved the same. And the presence of Christ, saints and angels from the sky gazing upon the scene shows fraternity. Fraternity means brotherhood. So it shows fraternity among the individual nations. So the nations of the world, fraternity among the nations has been shown through Christ, saints and angels. So this was the utopian vision, the very ideal vision of Frédéric Sorrieu that we have observed here. Is the same? So now let's discuss the same, what we discussed with the picture, with this mind map here very quickly. So the picture was given by Frédéric Sorrieu, French artist, and that was the first print, and the name of the picture was the dream of worldwide democratic and social republics, the pact between nations, and it was presented in 1848. It shows people of Europe and America marching in a long train and offering homage to Statue of Liberty. That's what we discussed. And there is a torch of Enlightenment in one hand and the Charter of Rights of Man in the other hand of Statue of Liberty, female personified figure of liberty. And on the foreground, shattered remains of shattered remains of absolutist institutions, which were monarchy and other absolutist institutions. USA and Switzerland way past the Statue of Liberty as they became nation states. France is closer, followed by German principalities, England, Ireland, and other countries. And from the sky, Christ, saints, and angels symbolize fraternity. So these are the keywords here in this mind map that you need to keep in mind. Now let's move forward. So we have understood Frédéric Sorrieu's utopian vision. Now we'll talk about Ernst Renan. He was a French philosopher, and he gave the idea of nation. So you can see here Ernst Renan, the picture here of this person. He gave the idea of a nation. Ernst Renan. He was born on 28 February 1823. Not very important. This is not something to remember. It's just good to know information for you. Now, Ernst Renan, what is a nation? In a lecture delivered at the University of Sorbonne in 1882, the French philosopher Ernst Renan, 1823 to 92, outlined his understanding of what makes a nation. He told about nation. The lecture was subsequently published as a famous essay entitled Quasi Nation. It means what is a nation. So that was the lecture which was published. In this essay, Renan criticizes the notion suggested by others that a nation is formed by a common language. Like different people suggested different things. Some said that common language should be the basis of a nation. Race or religion or territory, all these should be the basis. He said, it's very important to understand here, a nation is the culmination of a long past of endeavors. Endeavors means attempts, sacrifice and devotion. A heroic past, great men, glory that is social capital upon which one bases a national idea. That's what he said. So 3 keywords here. He said about endeavors, sacrifice and devotion. That should be based on past, glorious past, heroic past. To have common glories in the past, to have a common will in the present, to have performed great deeds together. It means shared glory, shared culture, shared past. To wish to perform still more, these are the essential conditions of being a people. So that was the idea of Ernst Renan. A nation is therefore a large-scale solidarity coming together strongly. So solidarity, its existence is a daily plebiscite. So he gave the idea of plebiscite. It means he emphasized on the democratic principles, the core democratic principles. A province is its inhabitants. If anyone has a right to be consulted, it is the inhabitants. So, according to him, if the inhabitants have the right to be consulted, then they would be considered as inhabitant. A nation never has any real interest in annexing or conquering or holding onto a country against its will. So it's the people. The existence of a nation is a good thing, a necessity even. And their existence is a guarantee of liberty. So he believed that the existence of nation is a guarantee of liberty, which would be lost if the world had only one law and only one master. So liberty is the essence to become a nation. Now, in a nutshell, we can see here the ideas of Ernst Renan through this mind map, memory map here. So, a culmination of long past endeavors, sacrifice and devotion is a nation. Nation is a large-scale solidarity. That's what he said. Its existence is a daily plebiscite. Inhabitants means the citizens have the right to be consulted. Existence of a nation state is a guarantee of liberty. So, liberty can be guaranteed within a nation state. And ultimately he said that it includes, a nation state includes common will, common glory and common struggles. So that is all about the idea of Ernst Renan. So in totality, we discussed about the introduction, we got an idea of different terminologies, we got an idea about Frédéric Soru's utopian vision, and what is a nation according to Ernst Renan. So based on what we discussed today, we have these assignment questions that you would be able to answer them easily with the notes that I have provided and the discussion that we have done. So all these questions are very simple if you have understood the concept. For any questions, you can post in the comments. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.